Hello everyone, so we are Module 6 to be presenting the critical report on Module 6 being the Modernity and Inclusive Social Transformation. So before anything else, I'd like to establish the basis of modernity and its definition. So according to the course of SocSc 12, modernity is a transformation of powerful set cultural, political, economic, and spatial relationships that have fundamentally influenced through the changes of nature within social life, the economy, and the use and experience of time and space. So as we delve in deeper into the critical report, we will be discussing the significance of Module 6 and as well as our own insights and thoughts with regards to the module itself. Likewise, the report will revolve around the problem statement created by our group, in which is that Module 6 highlights how the current deeply rooted world capitalist structural order and the lack of long-termism mindset had led to a system that fails to account the nuances of multicultural societies, leading to an uncompassionate, modernized world. Challenges to this order necessitates choosing between a post-capitalist order that retains capitalism's worst characteristics or a system that has yet to exist, such as the universal basic income, alongside the establishment of institutions that illuminate Asian economic, political, and ecological issues. So, as you can see there in our problem statement, in concepts including globalization, universal basic income, and issues surrounding the module are highlighted. So, to summarize the ideologies, globalization is basically the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technologies, and the flows of investment, people, and information. It has led to a number of impacts within the economic and social scale, which can be seen in the increase of capitalistic ventures within the economy and as well as the harsh urbanization waves that would lean towards the needs of the already rich private corporations. Through this, one can clearly see the influence of capitalism and its control over global affairs and trade in developing countries such as the Philippines. Moreover, the UBI or Universal Basic Income is another concept that paves a way for a sustainable and long-term mindset concerning the current state of society. It aims to ensure all people have the means to purchase necessities and improve their quality of life, and from this, changes in worldly structures can occur considering that it enables citizens to assuage different individual financial crises and risks, thus spanning the focus on the creative ways to politically, culturally, socially, or even economically develop a state or society. However, issues eventually arise in discussing social transformations and its impacts on current functional structures when discussing Module 6. One of the many problems talked about in this course were the inequalities within the economy of the modern world. We see this through the scarcity impacting minority groups and the lack of policy concerning the allocation of resources. Moreover, it leads to the corporate-ruled globalization that benefits global powers such as the United States to benefit off capitalist streams among the developing countries. More challenges of current social structures from the module include the widening economic gap between the top 1% in society and the poor, and as well as the systematic and structural biases that favor the rich at the expense of the well-being of the marginalized sectors, most especially through the urbanization and privatization of states and estates for capitalistic business owners.
Alright, so let's do a brief discussion on some of the theories present within the module. So, the first one is specific panopticon by Wald and Bellow. So Wald and Bellow calls for the deglobalization or decentralization of institutions. In this case, Bellow uses the World Trade Organization as an example. Centralized institutions that determine economic action in the world prevent the global south from curating or implementing strategies that may be more efficient for their particular situation. Globalization benefits mainly only the global north, as solutions and policies to economic discrepancies were curated mainly for the dominant and developed neoliberal world. Bellow calls for a more grassroots approach, where it emphasizes on the discussion of multiple parties as opposed to a centralized power such as the World Trade Organization. Alright, let's take a look at our second theory, which is the Universal Basic Income. So the Universal Basic Income is a grant from the government that a citizen or individual is set to receive. In the reading, the proposed theory enables citizens to stop working for their living, enabling them to explore their inner desires in life to a larger extent. It prevents citizens from falling into a welfare trap where they would need to maintain a subpar socioeconomic status to obtain benefits from the government. And it also reduces government and administrative spending spent on the processes in administering said welfare policies, thus preventing corruption. Fascists of UBI are said to have worked in South Korea, as government subsidies generate momentum for the population, enabling them to start businesses and for individuals to focus on self-improvement. It is a wonder how policies that align with UBI are not implemented more often until the social-cultural roadblocks of this movement are examined. For instance, in South Korea, alongside many East Asian countries, Confucianism is a deeply rooted philosophy, especially when discussing monetary gain. It is expected that one needs to work to obtain an entity. The idea of welfare is almost socially taboo in these nations, preventing the population from fully backing beneficial concepts like UBI. Alright, so our last theory is long-termism. So long-termism is the philosophy in which the state of the long-term future is given importance. It is to act to benefit the welfare of humanity generations from now. So the article within the module latches on the philosophy that we can inspire positive trends for the future, just like humanity has been doing for the past few decades and centuries. It focuses on the more altruistic side, in which humanity is capable of cutting down carbon emissions, improving the economy, and increasing the quality of life. Living in a world that is so exposed to rapid changes, it is imperative that humanity acts now in its quest for bettering the world. However, long-termism also suffers from its fair shares of criticisms, mainly that the philosophy could be widely overblown. Billionaires can tend to fund initiatives for problems that are yet to exist or are even conceivable at the time being, while more significant problems in the present are left untouched and ignored.
Deglobalization critiques the reliance of third world countries on multilateral institutions and U.S. support. The alliance fosters a disillusionized picture of what modernization looks like as it disregards the context and culture of a particular country. Walden Bello founded Focus on the Global South as an institute that aims to critique globalization and reliance on World Trade Organizations. This addresses the problem statement as it formulates a way in which the capitalist structural order can be dismantled. This is through recognizing that multilateral institutions and U.S. support are counterproductive in achieving modernization in Asian countries, as it often propels eventual marginalization of citizens in their own country. Bello also attributes an alternative to changing the capitalist order by focusing on the priorities of the global struggle. This includes the resistance to corporate-driven globalization. To reiterate, having one centralized institution that imposes a one-size-fits-all diminishes the ability and context of developing countries to formulate strategies that best suit their situation. Instead of allowing them to prosper, they are often marginalized.
Although I see how globalization has already come a long way, with many countries, especially that of the West, being heavily dependent on the different features of globalization, it is important to acknowledge that in the case of third world countries, globalization has given a large emphasis on national growth, and the standards of what growth actually is has been skewed and unfeasible to different countries because they are not from the West. Removing the emphasis on trivial growth and redirecting it towards bettering the quality of life of current and future generations is present under deglobalization. The deglobalization model presented by Bello also claims that models like neoliberalism are dysfunctional, which we can see in the prevalent manifestations in the Philippines.
The Universal Basic Income, or UBI, as a theory, provides an unconditional and regular income to all individuals, which aims to solve the inequality brought by the deeply entrenched capitalist order. For example, in Korea, profitable companies are not creating enough jobs while unprofitable companies are the ones providing jobs. This leads to an increase in employment in low-paying jobs that are insufficient for one to live comfortably in this ordered society. This is one of the consequences of the capitalist order. UBI as an alternative system is perceived to have three major advantages. First, it enables citizens to pursue careers they believe will fulfill their potential and is personally valuable to them, instead of pursuing jobs because it is economical. Second, it provides the welfare trap that exists in the current economic order, in which certain low-income statuses have to be met in order to obtain benefits. Third, the existing system of beneficiaries and approval processes is more likely to cause corruption. This emphasizes the exclusivity of the current social order. However, a study of the impact of the UBI in Finland shows that employment situations did not improve, but well-being did improve significantly. This new system leads to a more compassionate society because it allows individuals to pursue their own interests. Freedom and economic security are also benefits of such alternative system. Long-termism aims to eradicate the neglect and disenfranchisement of future citizens that capitalism has deeply fostered. For instance, technological developments such as cars and airplanes enable easier transportation for current citizens. Owning a car is seen to be equivalent to wealth and status due to the one-faceted definition of modernization. However, this has generated greenhouse gases that will impact the environment that may be unlivable for future generations. There is a stress, however, that not all developments are bad, such as the far ultraviolet lighting that can safely sterilize a room. There has to be a way to promote the common good for people living now and for the people in the future. This means moving away from the dominant customs and practices. Currently, a large number of citizens in third world countries die because burning fossil fuels pollutes the air that causes diseases such as lung cancer, heart disease, and respiratory infections. These fossil fuels are due to industrialization that is rooted in the capitalist economic system. This highlights how problematic economic order has become. It no longer just affects our economy, but has encompassed other aspects of the human being. Change in policy making and actions of the developments we have, such as the usage of artificial intelligence, is critical in dismantling the capitalistic system that fosters neglect and marginalization and the prosperity of people now and in the future.
The concept of long-termism can be largely overblown and is actually a catalyst for more ambitious capitalists to continue their exploitations. However, this example exhibits a more conscious way of looking at long-termism. It effectively looks at problems that are probable, and as opposed to more ballpark estimate problems or threats such as like AI. That capitalists like Elon Musk try to market in order to fund their projects. It not only heeds the future generations, but also gives justice to those experiencing injury from these issues in the contemporary.
Deglobalization has been an increasing trend in Asian countries and was further cultivated during the pandemic. One of the factors is how the spread of the supply networks between countries flattened. In China, under President Xi Jinping, China began an inward approach to policies to promote the indigenous development of leading industries. Similarly, first world countries have been focusing on an inward approach as well. Under President Donald Trump, the United States put forth an America First policy. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum on grounds of national security. The pandemic re-emphasizes concerns regarding supply chain as the export bans gained concerns regarding inadequate domestic production of medical equipment, personal protective equipment, and pharmaceuticals. The policies have exacerbated shortages, the opposite of their intended effects. An inward approach, in attempt to end globalization, has shown to be ineffective in pursuing a more inclusive society. Therefore, it shows that a post-capitalist order has been gearing towards embodying capitalism's worst characteristics, favoring self-interest that disenfranchise other individuals and nations. Marginalization in regard to the economic welfare of Filipinos has been prevalent, particularly during the pandemic. Additionally, Filipinos have complained about the unfair distribution of ayudas or financial assistance. Government officials have been accused of corrupting the supposed aid for citizens. This reality the Philippines face may be eradicated if the universal basic income is established, as this is a third advantage of UBI. Don Rawls' difference principle proposes that the state must form a social institution to work out social inequalities that will make social structure advantageous to everyone. Therefore, based on Rawls' principle, ayudas should be given to everyone who are not fully experiencing the basic primary goods. Although the preferential option for the marginalized is valid, it measures citizens based on their social or economic deprivation, and only those most deprived are helped. Not everyone is given help.
I think that there is a relationship between this and the mask of urbanization, because the administrations within regions of the Philippines, most especially the most influential one of all being Metro Manila, would much rather allocate funds and monetary aid to private capitalist sectors and the businesses in which can reciprocate the said corrupt behavior and financial greed to the government, because they feel that they can benefit more through this patron-client cycle rather than striving to subsidize the marginalized and poor areas that have been deteriorating time and time again.
Various countries have taken the necessary steps in embodying a long-termism mindset. For instance, Sweden has implemented carbon policies as it recognized the consequence of not cutting significant carbon emissions that include a dramatic increase in droughts, floods, storms, and even species extinction. Thus, Sweden implemented pricing carbon CO2 taxation. It has been the main policy instrument to drive fossil fuel consumption down. Denmark pledged to increase the number of solar photovoltaic and onshore wind plants by 2030. These steps created by these nations exemplify how economic gains of the country is not the sole factor that prompts policy making. There is a genuine concern for the well-being of the future generations and the prosperity of the current generation. However, it raises the question whether only first world countries can afford to take long-termism initiatives, as it has been proven to be costly.
Moving forward to the critique and analysis of the module, we are to answer the question of how does it impact our perspectives on modernity? Conclusively, the infrastructure of modern-day life is arguably built to integrate oneself into the capitalist ideal, only for a lot of those purposes to not hold up. Modernity is often conflated with going above one's current state in society. However, most ideal examples of modernization or development are superficial and will not sustainably benefit society. Different communities around the world will always be victims of degradation and marginalization if the goals of citizens are not community-based. Moreover, the view of what is modern or better is often unbefitting for many Southeast Asian countries such as the Philippines, as it does not properly take into account the histories of colonialism or changes in cultures that certain countries have been through. It is important to realize that modernity does not come easily and is indeed multifaceted. There are different considerations that have to be taken into account, such as the country's economic state, cultural background and identity, history, political climate, geographical location, and environmental status.
There's always a new presentation of what it is to be modern, but the common mistake in moving towards modernity is trying to find an instant approach to it, rather than a slow-paced, inclusive, and sustainable approach that will be feasible for countries that are developing. Instancy and capitalism work alongside each other, affecting individuals everywhere with their daily activities, from mere shopping to scrolling through 30-second videos on different social media platforms. Capitalism has always relied on the inequality of wealth, which currently leads to the poor working harder yet not earning the amount of money they deserve, while the rich earn more because of the labor of those below them. Social media platforms also play a great role in the capitalist ideal as it propagates different ideas and habits to users.
A prime example of how the effects of capitalism and instant gratification can occur in social media is through apps such as TikTok, where people are accustomed to short and fast videos where they will be given the end of the video right away. Social media shows short excerpts of people's lives, such as Elon Musk and his impulse bought rights to different companies. Elon Musk is a known capitalist and is highly regarded by a lot of people, but is also an enabler of racism and marginalization on platforms such as Twitter, which he has recently bought.
Capitalists, time and time again, have shown their evident lack of compassion toward the masses through the systems of their respective platforms. These people are not to be seen as exemplary individuals if there is no selflessness or regard for general societal development in their primary goals. We must look up to those that use their monetary or educational advantages for people other than themselves. In addition, we must also critically assess our differences with those that we draw inspiration from in order not to be dissatisfied with the results we are led to. Dissatisfaction during the consumerist age is common with how times now have reached the finish line of capitalistic logic, yet have not shown the utopia of the free market.
A clear emphasis on the multifacetedness of development must be presented to society in order for progress to actually occur. Thus, proper and timely steps must be taken rather than committing the same mistake again of being ignorant of differences and the necessity of sustainability. This is the biggest challenge that every government or any governing body under a free market society must take on.
Throughout this report, it was presented that the capitalist structure, partnered with a mindset that includes only its short-term effects, leads to a modernized society. However, such a society will only benefit the few. Currently, growth and development are not equal, nor are they equitable. Even years after its peak, globalization has been linked to inequality, unemployment, and the oppression of women, and these all show that leaving the system as it is should not be an option. However, the situation at hand is not hopeless. There are multiple solutions that can contribute to getting rid of this hyper-capitalist society. To start, a favorable shift is in the decentralization of international organizations like the World Trade Organization so as to consider economies in the global south and to provide for more equitable trade. The theory behind this specific panopticon is that there is a need for grassroots approaches as opposed to using only traditional neoliberal solutions that were tailor-made for developed countries, and therefore may not be properly suited for developing economies. Another intervention is the imposing of a universal basic income. This can serve as an intervention in a system where capitalism prevails, as it ensures that people's basic needs can be met. Citizens no longer have to shoulder the same level of worry about their necessities being obtained, opening the door for additional economic and financial opportunities. The last major shift needed in a global society is the need to adopt a long-terminist mindset so as to make people truly consider the lasting effects of capitalism. It cannot be denied that capitalism is at the forefront of this short-term mindset. By adopting a way of thinking that considers the long term, people are made to think about the consequences of decisions, policies, and operations for generations to come. All these can help result in a global society where there is equitable growth and development. So that's it for our presentation today, and thank you everyone for listening.